What if the night before your wedding, the person you love most in the world sent you a message so raw, so vulnerable, and so unexpected that it made you question everything you thought you knew about them? Because that's exactly what's swirling around in the whispers, the leaks, and the secret accounts right now about Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun. And if what insiders are saying is true, Lee Min-ho's last message to Kim Go-eun before their wedding wasn't just romantic, it was enough to bring her to tears, shake the entire guest list, and leave fans wondering if the couple's love story has a chapter no one saw coming. But before I tell you every hidden detail, let me just say this. Hit that subscribe button right now and help us get to 1,000 subscribers, because I promise you, after you hear this, you'll never look at their photos, interviews, or behind-the-scenes moments the same way again. The story begins with a quiet evening in a private villa on Jeju Island, rented under a fake name, guarded, and off-limits to everyone but the wedding party. The official ceremony was set for the next afternoon. Guests had been flown in quietly, rooms assigned, and the dining hall filled with white roses and flickering candles. But instead of relaxing or sleeping early, Lee Min-ho was pacing alone in his suite, phone in hand. Those close to him say he'd been unusually quiet all week. While everyone expected him to be excited and cheerful, there was something in his eyes, a heaviness, like he was carrying more than just the usual pre-wedding nerves. Kim Go-eun, meanwhile, was in another room with her closest friends, laughing softly over tea and touching the fabric of her gown one last time. She didn't know it yet, but her phone was about to light up with a message she would never forget. Around 11:47 p.m., according to one alleged insider, Lee Min-ho began typing. It wasn't short, it wasn't, "I love you," or "Can't wait for tomorrow." It was several long paragraphs, sent in one single burst. And from what's been pieced together, the message started with a confession that he had never imagined his life would lead him here, standing at the edge of a forever he thought he'd never have. He wrote about how, for years, he'd played characters who fell in love, who said all the right lines, who kissed in perfect lighting. But this, loving her, felt nothing like the dramas. It was raw. It was unpolished. It was real in ways the cameras could never capture. He wrote about the first time they met, not the official public introduction, but a private one, arranged quietly by mutual friends before they even worked together. He remembered exactly what she wore, the way she laughed at something he said that wasn't even funny, and the way her eyes seemed to hold both mischief and sadness at the same time. "That's when I knew," he supposedly wrote, "that if life gave me the chance, I would fight for you." But it wasn't just romance. The message had an edge of vulnerability. He admitted there were moments he feared he wasn't enough for her, that his public image, the endless attention, and the chaos of fame might one day push her away. He admitted he had thought about walking away, not because he didn't love her, but because he loved her too much to risk hurting her with the baggage of his world. And then, in the next breath, he confessed that every time he thought about leaving, the idea felt like tearing his own soul in half. Kim Go-eun, according to the whispers, didn't reply immediately. She read the message more than once, her friends noticing how her eyes glazed over and her hand trembled just slightly as she held her phone. Somewhere in that room, the laughter faded, replaced by a deep, thoughtful silence. One friend later hinted in a cryptic Instagram story that sometimes the most beautiful words come wrapped in fear. The last part of Lee Min-ho's message, though, is what fans can't stop talking about. He ended it with something like a vow, not for the ceremony, not for the public, but for her alone. He promised to protect not just her smile, but her silences. He promised that even when the spotlight burned too bright, he would be her shadow, shielding her from the heat. And most hauntingly, he wrote, "If tomorrow never came, if something took me away before we could say, 'I do,' please remember this night, this truth, I was yours long before I was anyone's." That final line, once leaked, exploded online. Some fans said it sounded almost like a goodbye, stirring rumors of hidden struggles or last-minute doubts. Others insisted it was simply the kind of poetic, intense love only Lee Min-ho could express. Regardless, the emotional weight of it was undeniable. They say Kim Go-eun finally replied just after midnight. No long paragraphs, no dramatic speech, just a single sentence. "Then be mine tomorrow and every day after that." From that moment on, those who saw them the next day said the air between them was different. They were closer, softer, as if the unspoken fears had been lifted away. By the time the ceremony began the following afternoon, no one could deny the way they looked at each other. Every glance, every touch carried an intensity that made even the most seasoned guests believe they were witnessing something rare. When Kim Go-eun walked down the aisle, Lee Min-ho's eyes reportedly brimmed with tears, not the controlled, picture-perfect kind, but the real kind, the kind that comes when you've been holding something inside for too long and finally let it go. And while the wedding itself was guarded, no official photos released, a few moments slipped through. A blurred shot of their hands intertwined under the table during dinner. A guest's audio recording of Lee Min-ho's voice cracking slightly as he thanked the one who taught me what home feels like. These fragments have been enough to keep the fandom in a frenzy, dissecting every pixel, every soundbite for deeper meaning. Now, some might say the message was just pre-wedding jitters spilling onto the screen. Others believe it was more than that, an unfiltered window into the mind of a man who has spent years living in the public eye but still fears losing the one thing that's truly his. Whatever the case, the fact that it's even being talked about proves one thing: their love story has crossed the line between celebrity fantasy and something raw enough to make even strangers feel invested. And maybe that's why, for so many fans, this last message isn't just a piece of gossip. It's a reminder that behind the flawless images, the designer suits, and the cinematic kisses, there are two real people with real doubts, real courage, and a love strong enough to survive them both. So the next time you see a photo of Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun, maybe you'll think about that night before the wedding. Maybe you'll imagine him alone in his room, fingers hovering over the keyboard, wondering if the words in his heart were too much or exactly enough. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize that some love stories aren't scripted, they're lived. And if you want every detail of what they've been hiding in plain sight, from secret trips to hidden matching accessories and more leaked messages, make sure you subscribe right now, because the next revelation might just be bigger than this one, and trust me, you don't want to be the last to know.